Good morning, everyone. We're just going to wait a couple minutes until we begin. Okay, welcome, everyone. We're going to begin the webinar today. Good morning and welcome to Janover's webinar. We'll be discussing how virtual CFO support services can help you and your business. My name is Chris Gagliardi, and I'll be your speaker today. I also have Chris Ngali as a special guest who will be speaking a little bit later about some digital advisory services that goes hand in hand with CFO support services. So thank you, Chris. Since the pandemic has hit, business has really changed. It has shifted to remote work, outsourcing, and cost cutting in any way possible. This is all with a focus on gaining additional profitability. I'm really excited today to have the chance to speak with you about our virtual CFO support services, and I hope you find this very valuable. Some housekeeping items before we begin. Please submit your questions in the Q&A section. Also feel free to chat to either Chris or myself, and we'll try to get to all of your questions at the end. If we don't have enough time to get to all your questions, we'll email your response as soon as possible. After the seminar, the recording will be made available on our website, and the PDF could also be sent to you upon request. You'll see on the next slide and at the end my email information. With all that said, we will now begin. And again, here's my email contact information. And a little bit of a background upon myself. I've been with Janover for 12 years, mainly providing assurance and consulting services to a wide range of industries with a focus in the construction and financial service industry. And in recent history, I have shifted some of my practice to providing virtual CFO services to private and public companies as well. So some key discussion points we're going to go through today are what services would most benefit you and your business, how this could align with your objectives and strategies already in place, giving you an ability to reduce workload, some additional services that a company like us could provide to public companies as well, and some misconceptions about outsourcing. You know, it's still not a key route that a lot of businesses go, especially smaller private companies. However, I'm hoping you'll see that outsourcing could really help you and your business. So our two main objectives, understanding the services that can be provided and understanding how it could really help you and your business. You'll see a quote here and you'll see a few throughout my presentation. I'm a big fan of quotes. So if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. You really have to understand what you're getting yourself into, and having a virtual CFO could help you get to where you need to be. And I also wanted to mention something that throughout this presentation, I'll be speaking at different levels. I'll be speaking in terms of small to medium-sized businesses, as well as if this service is something if you need on an interim basis or full-time. You know, it could go either way, and you'll see how that'll work. So our first slide here is, what is a virtual CFO? Because many of you might have heard the buzzword virtual, especially now with the pandemic. All you hear is remote and virtual. But what is a virtual CFO? So So from our trusted friends at Wikipedia, here's their definition. A virtual CFO is an outsourced service provider offering high-skill assistance in financial requirements of an organization, just like a chief financial officer does for large organizations. A virtual CFO may be a single person or an entity. And here's another quote by Pat Summitt, great coach. It is what it is, but it will be what you make it. So what we like to focus on here is that you're getting a team. When you're dealing with a virtual CFO, you're not just getting one person, which you will have a dedicated person or an individual, but you also get a team. And that's one of the reasons why I brought Chris on board here to talk for a few minutes later, is that you could really see how teams at a firm can collaborate and give extra value to you. So what level of services can be provided? What I wanted to outline here is a typical finance or accounting team structure at a private company. So typically you have a CFO at the top, followed by a controller, then your accounting department or accounting manager, depending on the size of the entity. And then the lowest level are your bookkeepers. So the bookkeeping department typically provides all the compliance for your company. They record all the bank activity, send out the bills, and so forth. The accounting department or accounting manager are the ones who assist and manage this process. They might review the AR, AP, make certain journal entries, and make sure things are flowing. You know, they're really a manager. Then you have the controller, which is a slightly higher level. They're the person who's really going to control the processes, monitor the internal controls, and really manage the managers or the accounting department. And then you have the CFO at the top, who's really the person making the financial decisions. They might be looking in the future, doing the budgeting, financial modeling, and everything like that. What you'll see in a little while is that we, when I say we, I mean either Janover, who provides virtual CFO services, or another entity who provides the same services. You'll see that we could provide any level that you need. We could fit in where needed, which will be a major talking point throughout this webinar. So again, with what level of services can be provided? This could fit in anywhere you need fit. It could be a fully outsourced CFO. It could be outsourced controllership. It could be support services to a CFO if it's something like a public company that you have a CFO in place, but just need added help or added depth to your bench. And then at the bottom, we could also provide everything with a bookkeeping and accounting department. We could be your one-stop shop for everything down from the CFO down to the bookkeeping department. One thing I also wanted to mention is the difference of the services. So you'll see it could either be a fully outsourced CFO or an outsourced controller. The difference there is really the level of touch that we provide your organization. It might be the difference between speaking with you weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. It's kind of one and the same. However, a fully outsourced CFO is what you need if you need really timely information on a weekly basis that you're not getting at this point in time. So what type of services would most benefit you? Well, it's really based upon a number of factors. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing. It depends on the size of your company, the complexity, what industry you're involved in, if you have investors or other third-party involvement. It could come down to the cost, but we don't like to go off of that because it's really based on need. If it's something that you can't do, that you don't need an in-house CFO on an everyday basis, you know, that could depend on maybe you go the controllership route. Also, as I mentioned before, this could be a good point for a startup company, or whether someone's in between CFOs if it's needed on an interim basis and you can't lose sight of your profitability or your goals. One thing you always want to think about is key information available to you at your request or timely? If it's not, this is a key sign that you're in need of a virtual CFO. The pandemic, as I mentioned before, has changed a lot of things in business today. It has proved that having sound financial advice is even more important than ever. If you didn't have someone within your company throughout this pandemic, how could you still be operating today? And the pandemic, as I mentioned before as well, has also forced companies to really cost cut where they could. This included possibly maybe laying people off. One of the persons you'd never want to lay off is your CFO or controller. since they give you that financial visibility. But if you can't afford them in-house, outsourcing could be a great option today. So what are some of the types of services that could be provided? Well, here I'll list some value-added services. This could include presence of leadership in your accounting and finance department. Just having someone that could really set the tone at the top makes a difference. Internal control integration. By having someone like us involved, you really make sure that all the internal controls are in place. Superior accounting and financial skills. Again, you'll have a team that's up to date on GAAP or the income taxes or any accounting needs that you see fit. Contract and agreement analysis. Often in a small company, it might be just a CEO or the owners negotiating everything, looking at the contracts, coming to terms with the agreements, and then they typically get their CPA involved at the end. But by having a virtual CFO as a CPA firm, we could be involved in the beginning. We really like to be proactive, not reactive. Merger and acquisition assistance. Again, this is often something that a company might get their CPA firm involved at a later date. However, if we're involved in the beginning as a part of your team, as your virtual CFO, we could work out anything beforehand or before you get into trouble. High-level administrative tasks. You might need organizational charts or administrative things with your employees. Someone like a virtual CFO could take care of all of this. It's not just the accounting and the financial reports. And again, I just want to remind everyone, if you have any questions as we're going through, feel free to chat them to me or put in the Q&A. Chris or I will try to answer the questions as we go throughout the presentation. Otherwise, we'll get to them at the end. So here's some more services. Financial statement preparation. This could be internal financials, whether on a weekly or bi-weekly, monthly basis, cash flow management, financial projections and budgets, custom dashboard implementation, and KPI analysis. So this slide really talks about all the financial means that we could provide you. And some of the utmost important. This is why I brought Chris involved. Often, as I mentioned before, we work with a team. So often I work with Chris, who's involved in digital advisory services, to provide these types of reports and dashboards to our clients. So I'll let Chris speak for a few minutes.
Thanks, Chris. So as Chris mentioned, I'm in charge of Janover's Digital Advisory Solutions Group, and our main focus is to bring digital accounting and finance solutions to a wide range of clients. As Chris mentioned, he asked me to be here today to speak really briefly on business intelligence KPI dashboards as our teams work really closely together. And as he mentioned, this is really an integral piece of the virtual CFO service offering. Dashboards and data visualization dashboards are essentially a subset of data analytics, which is like one of the hottest buzzwords right now in accounting and finance. In its most simple form, data analytics is really just a process of analyzing data and formulating in a way that becomes understandable and allows the user, a business owner, someone in the finance department, to draw conclusions and see certain trends in data. So think about like when you're looking at a large data set in Excel. Can you analyze trends? Yeah, you can, right? You could eventually get to it, but as many of us on this call know, it's probably not the most effective way. And if you want to continuously analyze data in Excel, you're going to have to continuously and constantly update it. So it's not the most effective way to really monitor your company's key performance indicators and trends in your financial data. This is where the data visualization or these data dashboards come into play. So a data dashboard is really just a graphical representation of information and data through a business intelligence software. These softwares, I listed a couple out in the slide here. They include Looker, which is a Google-owned software, Power BI, which is Microsoft, Tableau, which is a Salesforce tool, and then a couple of others, Spotfire and Click. This list, there's hundreds. So this is just the 5 of the bigger names out there, but there's a ton of them. And what these do they're basically softwares that allow you to aggregate data which allow you to more simply see trends and outliers and patterns in your data. We included a couple of screenshots on the right side here. You'll notice a lot of it is bar charts, tables, line graphs, column charts, but they're dynamic in this sense. And I mean, they look great. They're easy to understand, which is great. These provide a business owner and a CFO, possibly your virtual CFO, an extra tool to make better informed business decisions. It's not going to run your business for you, but it's going to give your CFO and your CEO, an extra tool in their tool belt to make better decisions about the business. And the reason why these are so important today are, we all know, like, big data is like one of the biggest topics right now. There's millions of data points being aggregated per second in the world. And in your business, the more data that your business builds up, the harder it is for you to analyze, right? And the more essential these tools become because they allow you to aggregate all this data and make decisions based off of it. Chris, next slide. So what are the benefits of these? Why would you even need one or want one? So the first benefit that we've identified, essentially business intelligence dashboards allow you to blend data from multiple data sources and create custom dashboards with that data. So if you have data in a POS software, or if you have data in a server, if you have data in Google Sheets, if you have data in an Excel document, in Salesforce, in QuickBooks, you can combine all that data and generate single reports that use each of those data points. You could blend them together. It allows you to combine operational and financial metrics in one place, which, unless you have an ERP platform, is pretty difficult to do. One of the really cool things that you could do with the dashboard, you could aggregate multiple QuickBooks files. So I'm sure a lot of companies out there, if they have multi-entities and they're using QuickBooks, possibly QuickBooks Desktop, they're going to have a separate QuickBooks file for each of those entities. And in order to get to a combined or a consolidated P&L, balance sheet, cash flow, fixed asset register, it's pretty difficult. You have to make sure that all of those QuickBooks files have the same chart of accounts. It's going to take you, it's a heavy lift to manually take each of those QuickBooks files and combine them. With a dashboard, we could automatically link each of those QuickBooks files and generate consolidated combined reports on a near real-time basis, which is invaluable. The second point is you're going to get access to data that you'll never be able to get to otherwise. So if you are an e-commerce business, or if you're a retail business, you're able to get down to a real-time granular level of, okay, what are my sales each day of the week, by hour, or even by minute, right? And you could compare that on a real-time basis, and it's constantly going to be updated. The third point is anywhere, anytime, real-time. So this is one of the key features of these. You can pull up a dashboard on pretty much any device at this point. A cell phone, we included an example here of really just a high-level KPI dashboard that one of our clients uses. And essentially, you can get an email emailed to you each day with the results, or you could pop on your iPad or your cell phone, pull up an app, and you could see pretty much everything about your business. And the fourth point is it saves hours and hours of manual work per month. We've had clients where we've developed dashboards for them, and we've taken them from a process that takes pretty much 3 to 4 days every month for them to aggregate certain data points. And it's done real time. So it requires limited to no human interface on a recurring basis, which is really valuable. So again, this is a really key feature of the virtual CFO offering. You have your virtual CFO who helps you think strategy and helps you make decisions on your business. And having these data dashboards essentially provides you and your CFO a tool to help make those decisions a lot easier and make them real time. Generally, when you're reporting, if you get a financial report and it's a month and a half after that the next month ended, or if you're getting it 6 months after year end, it's pretty hard to make a decision which will positively affect your business because the data is now stale. So that's all I really had to mention. Chris, I appreciate you having me here today, and you can go on to the next slide.
Great. Thanks a lot for joining. I did have two questions come into a chat to me. One I think I can answer, and the second I think you already answered. So the first is that you mentioned QuickBooks here, and what accounting packages could you really work with? I think I could answer that. You know, QuickBooks and QuickBooks Online are the softwares that a lot of small companies and even medium-sized companies use. They make it very easy to connect with and to produce these reports. But I'm not going to speak for you, but I'm sure that, you know, we're not going to say every accounting package, but most accounting packages you'd be able to connect with.
Yeah, so pretty much at a high level, you could connect to pretty much almost any data set in one way or another. You're really going to have limitations. Sometimes some of these ERP platforms, they really want to sell you their own, dashboard software. So they make it really difficult to get to the data, but generally speaking, you could link to almost any data set. That's right.
Right. And then the second question is, what you've kind of answered already, where you had real time posted up there. Does that mean that, you know, as you show on the phone here, people could get reports on a daily basis?
Yeah. The real time means pretty much exactly real time. You could pull up a dashboard at any time of the day. We've built dashboards for clients, which are essentially live labor dashboards where they could monitor labor and sales on a real-time basis. And they actually do make staffing decisions using those dashboards. So real-time means daily, weekly, hourly, by the minute, whatever you want it to be.
Wow, that's really invaluable. I'd love to do a poll right now, just seeing who gets information like that on a daily basis, but I think I would know the answer. All right, again, thank you, Chris.
Thanks.
So now that we told you about some of the value-added services that could be provided to you from a virtual CFO, why should you engage these services? Well, one of the top reasons is the mitigation of risk. As we've been talking about, you get a team of CPAs and other support staff. All these people have accounting, finance, tax, technology, and general business knowledge. So you're getting knowledge across all different aspects as opposed to leaning on one person in your organization. Technology, you know, we could really help you scale different technologies. We're around different industries, or CPA firms are around different industries and know what's out there, know what technologies to use. And we could really help you get some of these technologies at a lower cost. And the what if role, pandemic. If you didn't have someone that could fit this what if role, you probably wouldn't be on this webinar today or even still in business. You really need someone with financial knowledge that has the ability to get you through the tough times. Also, since we are a team of CPAs, you know, we really have knowledge of the industries and other businesses and what's going on in your industry. So we have some insight there that you might not have off the top of your head. CPAs, accounting, finance, tax, you know, we really know the complex regulations and reporting requirements. So we'll make sure, you know, all your compliance issues always stay intact.
And Chris, just to throw out there on that last slide as well, on the technology front, digital advisory solutions is not only, you know, data dashboards and KPI dashboards. We could also do, you know, automation implementation for clients. We could also, cybersecurity is another hot topic, which also rolls up under the virtual CFO offering, as well as your general IT. So we have partnerships with a lot of different vendors and providers to really bring you a full technology stack if that's what you need. Essentially, you know, almost an outsourced CIO, so to speak.
That's a great point. You know, one of the technologies you mentioned was RPA, robotic process automation. We really won't get into that today because I think in the future at some point, the digital advisory group will do a separate webinar and we'll get more in depth there. But what that is essentially is the ability to automate processes in your organization that are highly manual and have really less judgment. I'm sure in every organization there's a process that defines that. And this is something that we could help you out with. And again, you know, stay tuned for another webinar in the future from Janover to learn more about that. Thank you. So your goals and strategies. How do you run your business? Is it just you making decisions? Do you have anyone to bounce ideas off of, or you know, a financial springboard? What are your processes in place? We could help with that. We could put better processes, not just accounting or financial, but just operational. We could help manage relationships. We could talk with your outside auditors, your attorneys, insurance brokers, anyone that, you shouldn't waste your time dealing with. In touch with the industry and other peers. Again, since a virtual CFO is typically a CPA firm, we have knowledge all across the industry. Free up your time. This is one of the biggest things. You don't know how many times I talk to CEOs or owners or presidents of companies, and they're spending so much time on things they shouldn't, where they should really be focusing on the future and profitability and managing their relationships. I mentioned this before on one of the slides. This would let us be proactive and not reactive. Often, too many times as a CPA, I realize that companies come to me at the end of the day or after the fact, after they did something, and sometimes it's too late to help fix it. This could be a tax issue that we could help solve earlier in the game, or just something financially in general. So here's a statistic I put at the bottom. It's from census.gov. They've been running weekly surveys throughout the pandemic. So overall in the US, about 32% of businesses are still facing an effect of the coronavirus pandemic. And about 44% stated that's a moderate negative effect, with 32% stating a large negative effect. So as we spoke about in the beginning, this is causing companies to cut costs. And what you'll see later on when we talk about costs is having a virtual CFO could actually be a cost saver. Day-to-day assistance. As we mentioned, we could fit in anywhere where needed. So if it is a true virtual CFO, we're almost involved on a day-to-day basis, helping implement the policies and procedures, parallel objectives to what you need. In the beginning, we'll set the goals and we'll really learn about you and your business and where you want to be and where you should be. Access to technology, as we just spoke about, and real-time information, as Chris showed us, that you'll have the ability to gain reports daily if it's really needed. This is a slide I like to talk about. So, often we provide these services to private companies, but we also provide them to small and medium-sized public companies. But that is really the virtual CFO support services, where they have a CFO in place, but they just don't have enough bandwidth to tackle all the day-to-day tasks. So what we're able to do is help you with your SEC reporting, prepare the 10Qs and the Ks and all your S8s or whatever other forms you need to file with the SEC. We work hand to hand with the auditors as well as your corporate attorneys, SEC attorneys, to make sure that you stay in compliance. We're allowed to take a deeper dive in your internal controls. As you know, if you're a public company, there's some more strict regulations, SOX 404 compliance. We'll really make sure that you have the controls in place. And also by having a virtual CFO support or outsourced support services, it really adds another layer of internal controls that just makes the auditors get comfortable. First line of contact with the PCAOB auditors. As I'm an auditor myself, I know we could be, I don't want to say annoying, but you communicate with us a lot. Let's put it that way. We could take that away from you and your actual CFO in-house to let you guys focus on where you need to be. We could take that process completely away from you. And implementation of accounting standards. Often public companies have accounting standards that they must adopt earlier than private companies. And we're always on top of that, where we have the ability to provide memos to the auditors or just for your internal housekeeping. It's really a value-added services to public companies, and they really see the value there. And often they start small with maybe having us help them with the SEC reporting, but then when they see what we could do, especially with the financial reporting and dashboards, it really turns into a bigger service. They really see that it's needed. Just because a company's public doesn't mean they need help. So now you understand what it is, hopefully why you should think about these services, but how does it work? So typically a service like this gives you the ability to pick and choose what service you would want. As we discussed before, it could be a virtual CFO, it could be an outsourced controllership, it could include the bookkeeping and accounting, it could include bill pay, it could include doing your taxes at the end of the year, sales tax, payroll taxes. It could really lets you pick and choose to where needed. As we made this aware, this involves various specialties, digital advisory. You could get those reports, you could get those dashboards daily, weekly, monthly, however often you need. You have access to tax services often. Like for instance, Janover has a highly skilled tax department that we'd be able to bounce ideas off of, or if you need some tax structuring, or a variety of other services, whether it's estate planning for the owners, any nexus issues with sales tax, which is a hot topic these days. Again, it lets you choose. And often it's a recurring monthly fee, flat fee, so there'll be no surprises. It works in your budget, and it works for both of us. How would onboarding work? So typically there's 4 stages, and most often it's an 8-week, 2-month process. It starts with the commencement stage, which at this stage will help you in goal setting. As I mentioned, determine where you need to be and where you should be. It'll discuss the current processes and flows of information that you have right now, and we'll begin to propose enhancements. The next stage would be implementation, where any of these approved changes we would begin to implement, as well as assess the budgets, models, and cash flow projections. This is where someone like Chris and his team would really get involved in seeing what type of reporting works for you and what type of information you want to see, and help you make business decisions. We'll also begin to look at your technology, how we could work more efficient with maybe new software or other ways of working with your current software. Then there'll be the reporting where you'll start to receive the specific reporting and dashboards that really help you make game time decisions. And then of course, ongoing, which is the last stage, how you'll receive ongoing support. Again, depending on what best fits your business, your need, whether it be weekly calls with us, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever it is, we would be here for you. So now you heard about all the great things a virtual CFO could do for you. How it would work, why it would work, what it is, but what's the catch? I'm sure some of you maybe still be second guessing this, and if a virtual CFO is really the way to go. So I'm going to start to go through some misconceptions that you probably have questions with already. So one, I'm sure, is that the cost would be too high. Well, according to LinkedIn and CFO.com, the average cost of a CFO for a private company was about $180,000 to $200,000. I could assure you that the cost of a virtual CFO would actually be less than that. If any company thought a virtual CFO would cost that much, at that point, it'd be time to say you really need a CFO in-house. If you need a CFO in-house where you need the information on a daily or every hour basis, that's at the point where you need someone in-house. But for a virtual CFO, it's definitely less than these average costs of one person. And again, I want to stress that with a virtual CFO, you're getting a team, not just one person. So being virtual doesn't work for me. We went through the pandemic, some remote work. I still don't think it's going to work. Well, you're probably on the other side of that answer. A KPMG 2020 CEO Outlook study found that 77% of CEOs will continue to build on the use of digital collaboration and communication tools. And 73% said that working remotely has widened their potential pool of talent. And 69% will be downsizing their office space. This just goes to show you that remote work is here to stay. So whether it's someone that's already in your organization or an outsourced person, it's not really going to matter. A lot of people are going to be working remote. To echo that, PwC's most recent US CFO Pulse survey found that 54% of CFOs plan to make remote work a permanent option. That's not temporary, they're saying permanent. And 79% are implementing cost containment. So this just goes to show you that it's true, everyone's cost cutting where possible. So this could be an option for you. You might be saying key procedures of controls will not be in-house and the company will lose control. Well, that's not really true. We're going to become a part of your team. You will no longer look at us as your CPA. You'll look at us as your internal team member. Promotion of business will falter, with having an outsourced provider of such a key service. Again, that's probably not true. Outsourcers can be great at marketing you and your business. Again, I want to say that CPA firms have so many contacts within your industry and other industries that you'll probably see that a virtual CFO could really promote your business greater than someone in-house can. And of course, you might say, my current CFO and team can handle all the work. Why do we need to add someone else? Well, a 2019 Brainyard study showed that almost 40% of CFOs ranked juggling too many responsibilities as their biggest challenge. They're just not able to do everything on a day-to-day basis. Almost 40% also ranked automating invoices as the #1 way to improve cash flow, with 51% saying creating and adhering to a budget would be the #1 way to improve cash flow. Again, these are two key processes that a virtual CFO team could help you with. 55% of CFOs rated better, faster reporting as their top 5 priority. Well, we already went over that in great detail about how you could receive reporting on a daily basis right to your phone. And 46% rated hiring and retaining qualified finance professionals as their most largest concern. Well, it wouldn't be a concern if you hire a team from a CPA firm. So now that we got through all that, what are the key takeaways that I want you to go home with today? One, common theme, a virtual CFO could really be a partner to your organization. According to the CB Insight survey, 23% of small businesses fail because they don't have the right team. Well, don't let that 23% be you. Put the right team in place and get the right partner. Virtual CFO could fit in where needed. A Harvard study found that 78% of workers find themselves on a weekly basis with involuntary idle time, which costs employers an estimated $100 billion per year. If you're paying someone in-house a high salary, oftentimes they might be sitting around with no work to do. While virtual CFO works when you need and where we see fit. So you're not paying for services that aren't being provided to you. As we just went through, it could really be cost effective. It's nowhere near the cost of an average CFO for a private company. Plus, you're getting more team members with a wider range of skill sets involved.
And Chris,
Yes.
just to jump in here, when you talk about cost effective, right? You're not recommending that someone gets rid of their CFO to hire Jan over as a virtual CFO, right? This is for those small businesses who may not have someone in that CFO position, and they're weighing the cost benefits of hiring a full-time CFO or hiring a virtual CFO, right?
That's exactly right. Well, it's kind of two-folded. So you're exactly right in that case, where if it's a small company that doesn't currently have a CFO or is in the middle of CFOs, this could be a great fit. Or if it's a startup company that really can't afford hiring a full-time CFO at this point, that's where this service would exactly fit in.
Mm-hmm.
The CFO support services is more along the lines of a public company that has a CFO but just needs some help.
Yep.
And the controllership services is more of a service of also probably a medium-sized to larger company that possibly has someone in-house, but again, just needs help with the day-to-day activities, needs help on the monthly financial review or internal controls or any other processes that a virtual CFO could help with. That's why we call it virtual CFO support services. It's not always just a CFO, could be just a support services or any other type of services that you see fit.
Mm-hmm.
Good point. And that is it. So like I said, we're here to help you. If you have any other questions, feel free to contact me. My contact information is up on the screen. Recording of the webinar will be made available. And if you would like a PDF, just email us and we'd be happy to get you a copy. So I don't see any other questions that came in that we didn't. There were a few questions chatted to me privately, but we answered them already. I don't see any other questions. So with that said, I hope everyone has a great rest of their week. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.